絶対死ぬんじゃない。姉が命をかけて繋いでくれた命を託された未来を。キユ。痛い。
Alright guys, so second episode of Demon Slayer has just dropped, and I'm a little disappointed here because I really thought that Ginyu was gonna be our traitor, and it turns out that he's just sad. So it turns out that he is disappointed in himself and doesn't feel like he actually earned the title of Hashira because of the way that he passed his final exam. And I think that he never heard the phrase, C's get degrees, right? Like, if you were to ask someone, if I were to ask you, what would you call a doctor that graduated with a C average? Well, you call him a doctor, right?
Good point.
You know, I'm a little disappointed that he didn't turn out to be a traitor, to be honest with you guys, because I think it would have been a nice twist to the story that we've seen thus far. We just haven't seen anything crazy like that happen in Demon Slayer, and I think it would have been a nice change of pace to the entire story. But I'm sure that a lot of people are glad that instead of Ginyu being a traitor, you know, he is just sad and in a mood because he doesn't feel worthy. Which kind of reminds me of what he said when they were looking to start this whole training situation, where he said, like, I'm not like you guys, meaning I didn't earn this title that you guys have, because he just doesn't feel worthy. So in this episode, we saw that the master guy, I forget his name, the one that's all bedridden, he chooses Tanjiro to try to break Ginyu out of this whole like mental mood that he is in. By the way, like, have you guys noticed that just like every single person in Demon Slayer is just like an emotional wreck? I don't know. It almost seems like they're all crybabies in a sense. Like, that's my initial reaction. But then you also kind of think of like, yeah, well, all of these people have had like their families killed and stuff. So, you know, I go back and forth. I'm like, yo, these guys are all crybabies. But at the same time, like in this world, like they've all gone through some real stuff. But in this case, like the master chooses Tanjiro in order to try to convince Ginyu to start training like the rest of the Hashira. And, you know, I got to give it to him. You know, he's a pretty smart guy because I think out of all of the characters that we've seen in Demon Slayer, Tanjiro by far seems to be the one that's more of a crybaby. Not more of a crybaby, but he really does seem to be more empathetic, right, than a lot of the other characters. He really is able to put himself in other people's shoes, and I think that, you know, this is what I feel like the story is trying to show us here, that this is what the master was able to recognize, and then he chooses Tanjiro to give him this task. Hey, like, try to get this guy out of his funk so that he can help us in this ultimate goal that we have to get everybody ready, you know, for this final fight. You know, again, this is another episode where nothing really happened, right? Nothing really moved the story forward. It was actually more of a flashback, get a backstory on Ginyu and Sabito, I think is the guy's name. And it really didn't move the story forward. I think next episode will, but I got to give it to Tanjiro. I think that I wasn't quite sure what he was going to say in order to motivate Ginyu, but what he said, man, was just like, poof, right? He tells him, are you not going to pass forward what he entrusted to you? Like, dude, that's deep. And it's so deep that obviously that is what ultimately slaps Ginyu out of his whole mood and brings him back not only to reality, but to confront the fact that he has a responsibility to carry forward what Sabito not only taught him, but gave him the opportunity by sacrificing himself to do. You know, I'm reminded a lot of the apostles. The apostles that we see in the Bible, Paul, Peter, Mark, Luke, John, right? All of these guys that walked with Jesus, right? And whether you believe the supernatural pieces of the Bible, I think that without a doubt, we can all agree that they truly wanted to carry forward the teachings that their master Jesus entrusted to them. And this is what we truly see in the Bible, right? Jesus taught them about the only way to everlasting life, and he entrusted them in the Great Commission, right? Go out and make disciples of all nations. He entrusted them to carry this teaching forward. And ultimately, this is what they do, to the point where they were all willing to die for the teachings and the understanding that they had about who Jesus was, that ultimately he was the Messiah that came down to earth, sacrificed himself in order for us to be able to have eternal life. And truly, I think that for all of us that are alive and that are here, we've all had, either parents, friends, or other people that have mentored us, that have taken time out of their day, out of their life, to be able to impart and teach us something. And the least that we can do in order to pay them for that kindness is to carry those teachings forward, right? I've had many people in my life that have thankfully taken the time to teach me about being a man, about taking care of my family, about my career. And as I think about the time that they spent not having to do this, right? They did it out of the kindness of their heart. It also reminds me to do the same with other people. And I think that this is really the core of this episode, is that we've all at some point experienced some kindness from others. And the least that we can do in order to honor their memory or to thank them is to pass that forward. And lastly, what I want to leave you with, and what I want to remind you of, is that we are limited in the time that we have here on earth, especially with the people that we love. And oftentimes it's not until something bad happens, or that person is no longer with us, that we actually take the time to appreciate them. So the last thing that I'll say is that take time today to think about your loved ones, to thank them in person while you have them, and to appreciate the time that you have, because ultimately it's all limited time. All right, well, episode 2 didn't have a lot of action, but it's fine, right? We're getting a little bit more backstory. I think that by next episode, we're going to start seeing some training and some fighting, or at least that's what I'm hoping. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What did you think about episode 2? What are you hopeful for? Again, just a reminder, I am going straight out of the anime. I have not read any of the manga. So let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, just want to remind you that we must persevere. Peace.